How's it going, folks? Stu here. This week, the London Film Festival kicked off its 2020 edition, which is slightly different this year because there's been a little virus going around. Don't know if you've heard about it, but that means that things have moved virtual this year for the large majority of the festival. There are a few physical screenings of some of the bigger names on there, but for press, which includes yours truly, pretty much everything is now virtual, which means I've been watching films on my TV in a day, which is weird and taking some adjusting to. It's not the same as the theatre experience, and I miss the whole festival atmosphere, but I'm just grateful that we have a film festival in any form this year at all. So yay, it started. But the first of those festival reviews this year is for a film which I've been incredibly excited for. It's probably one of my most anticipated films of the festival, full stop. And then BFI were like, hey, you want it at the beginning of the festival? You can have it. It's Mangrove, which is one of a bunch of new films from Steve McQueen this year. I am a very large Steve McQueen fan, and it's part of his Small Axe series, which if you haven't heard about is a sort of anthology film series which I think is coming to BBC over here in the UK later in the year, and it's basically a collection of 6 films all telling different experiences from black communities in London, and this is the first one, Mangrove. It's episode, I guess you could call it 1, but it is a 2-hour feature film in itself. And let's not beat around the bush any further, shall we? It was fucking amazing. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. In its simplest terms, the film deals with the story of a West Indies community in Notting Hill in the 60s, I believe. And a Mangrove is a restaurant that opens up as a community spot which gets targeted by the police and Metropolitan Police in London, who, newsflash, had a very deeply ingrained systemic racism about it, which meant that black people were getting targeted in London, and the people of the Mangrove restaurant and bar got targeted. They ended up doing a demonstration, and a bunch of them got arrested. And this film is sort of about what led up to that, and also about the trial and the court case that arose from that. And it is brilliantly told by Steve McQueen here. The thing I love the most about this is that it tackles... It's so easy to say, like, oh, it's a very relevant topic now, but it is, so I'm not going to beat around that one. Racism and systemic racism has been a very pressing issue this year amongst a load of other things, and so it feels like a good time to tackle a topic like this. And the thing I love so much about Steve McQueen's approach to stuff like this, we saw it with things like 12 Years a Slave, which dealt with more specifically slavery, but I love the way that he approaches big topics like that, which could very much go the wrong way in big Hollywood films, but he deals with them in a way which feels so considered but also unflinching, and those things go hand in hand and are absolutely present here in Mangrove. I love the way that he deals with certain parallels. It's something that has made every one of his films particularly impressive to me, but he has a brilliant way of visualizing certain subtexts within themes and just mining those themes for loads of rich dramatic stuff. McQueen, man, Steve McQueen is a goddamn legend. But also at this point we know that McQueen gets brilliant fucking performances out of basically everyone that's in his films, and this one's no different. I loved everyone in this film, but there are 3 sort of standout performances for me that seriously blew me away. One is Letitia Wright, who I think is brilliant. You'll probably know her mostly from Black Panther because it's a Marvel film, but she's brilliant here. Also Sean Parks in the film, who plays the owner of the titular sort of Mangrove restaurant, who is just brilliant. I loved his performance. So much passion and anger in there, and it all comes to a head brilliantly towards the end. There are some scenes at the end of this film which are just, the camera just lingers on Sean Parks and you get so much from it, and just seeing him made me cry. But also Malachi Kirby in the film, who's another one of the people that are convicted of the crime of rioting, although they weren't, it was a protest, who did a whole load of amazing work here for me, particularly in the latter half of the film where it becomes much more about the court case and the trial. He really stood out there, and he has some brilliant lines, some brilliant moments, but all of them together work really well. And I love that it brings so many different perspectives within this community and within this side of, I don't want to call it a debate because it is kind of quite black and white in who's the good and the bad guys, but I love the way that you get a real genuine, authentic sense of the perspectives within a community that are fighting for their own sort of identity in the UK. I loved it. And again, Steve McQueen has this brilliant balance of, you know, showing the kind of facts of the situation and showing a part of history, but also not being afraid to revel in the moments of sort of culture and community. At one point, there are a few sort of steel drum dances dances out in the streets, and he's right in there with his camera, and you really do get a sense of the community in Notting Hill at that point, which makes it all the more impactful as buttons start to get pushed, and it makes you empathize fully with these characters in a way which doesn't feel like cliche or melodramatic or just shoving it down your throats. But ultimately it is just a truly captivating story, which I myself am included in this. Not enough people really knew about, so I'm just happy to be able to see it through the lens of someone like Steve McQueen. I was really blown away by Mangrove. What a solid start to the festival. Usually like it takes a bit to get going sometimes, but they have definitely led with a strong one here. I kind of think it's going to be hard to really top something like this, but we have got another Steve McQueen film in the lineup as well, so we'll see what I think about it in a few weeks time. But what about you guys? Did you have a chance to check out Mangrove at the festival? What did you think about it, and where does it line up for you in terms of Steve McQueen's other films that are brilliant? All of them. They're all great. He's not done a bad film yet. But above all, I'm just happy to say that one of my favorite working directors did not disappoint. So yeah, good times were had in my living room. But I will see you guys very, very soon for some more reviews from the festival. So until then, don't go anywhere. Just sit the fuck down and do not move, motherfucker.